So, hey, everybody, it is Cecilia, and we are so glad that you are here. This is such a wonderful time for me and for Flourish in Grace, simply because this is the first episode of our podcast for season 3. And so I'm really excited about it. And the reason why I'm excited about it is because I have a dear friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time and had a conversation with my dear friend Faith. And we'll jump into definitely how I came to know her. But I'm excited because, again, this is going to be the first episode in a brand new season of Flourish In Grace Podcast. And now we're doing some video with it. So this is making it a little bit more exciting and a little more interactive. And I am just grateful for what God has given me, the vision that he's given me for Flourish in Grace, because I know that it's going to be impactful for women who watch this and women who listen in. And so, again, I'm excited because, again, I have a great person that I'm going to be talking with today. And I am just excited for her to share her story, to just share her journey, and just to share whatever it is that the Lord has placed on her heart to share with you, who all will listen and join in. And so, again, welcome back. And I hope that this blessed you. So I'm going to jump right in and I am going to say, hey, Faith, how are you doing?
Good. Hi, Cecilia.
So listen, it is so cool to see your face. Like, literally, y'all, this is the first time we're having a conversation face to face, so to speak. And literally over probably about 10, 11 years or a lot more. So this is really cool. And so I'm not gonna talk so much I'm not gonna do too much talk because I definitely want her to talk more. But I want to just kind of lead in and just kind of give a segue and just give her an opportunity to introduce herself. But just to give you a little context of how I know her, back in the day, we joined the Army National Guard around the same time, and we served but for a good bit together before I moved to another unit. And so we actually joined when we were in 11th grade in high school, right? Did you also join in 11th?
No, I was a senior.
Senior, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was in 11th grade and you came after me. So that was, so y'all, we were still in high school and we got convinced to join the Army National Guard. So, but it was a fun time. But however, definitely she was someone that we became really close friends. Cool thing, her father and my grandfather were really good friends. And it was just such a unique relationship. And so it was just a blessing in so many different ways. But however, Faith, I want you to introduce yourself to everyone and just kind of give a little background about you.
Hi, my name is Faith. I am a wife and mom of 2. I always start with that because that is my greatest gift, is to be a wife and mom. And I am a humongous fan of sewing my own clothes, doggy bed, whatever I can sew, I'm sewing it. It is my therapy. It is my gift from God to spread my love of meeting people and connecting with people. And Cecilia, she does not know how much I have looked up to her. Even when we weren't talking, I've been watching all of everything she's been doing. And I'm so proud of her. But yes, I was in the military for 9 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 9 years, got out after we left Iraq. And just started my life, became a mother, wife, and I've just been asking God a lot, where do you want to see me? You know, of course, we all had our dreams of what we want to become. Sure. God's like, child, I got other plans for you. So, right now I'm in a contentful state. I'm really happy where I am. I'm not rich, but I am rich in love, and I'm rich in the surroundings of people around me. So I'm grateful for that.
Love it. So cool. Yeah. So we served, she served 9, I served 10. We went to Iraq together. And so that was a journey. For those of you that we served in the military, we went to war. And so, yeah, we were over there together in our unit. The first 6 months, we were all in the same camp. And then the second 6 months, a lot of us got separated from each other. And I know that we were at different camps at that time. But again, it was just cool because it was a lot of us who were coming out of high school, and we served our time. And then, of course, close to that 4-year mark, we got that call and said that we were going to be making that trip to Iraq. And so after we came back, I remember I got out for a little bit because I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. was out for like 3 months and was like, I got to go back. I miss my people. And so Ashley came back and I was with the unit again for about 1.5 years. And then I left and went to another unit. So after that, that's kind of when life went different directions. And I didn't see Faith personally for a long time. But however, like I said, one of those people that you meet and they, even though you're not together, it's like when you do see each other, is like nothing changed, right? And you just have those relationships that just do that. You can always laugh, always smile, and just encourage each other. And so it's cool. The coolest thing about it is that now that we're on the other side and we love the Lord and have different relationships with the Lord, I think that's cool because it's like we knew each other at one time in our life. And now that we're on this side of life in relationship with the Lord, we get to share in that. And so I'm excited about that. And that's pretty cool. So just to see her encourage other people, which we'll dive into more about all that she has going on with her encouragement, what the Lord is using her for her ministry and all of that good stuff. So before we jump into that and get a little deep in the conversation, just to let everybody know what we're going to be talking about. When I reached out to Faith to ask her to be a part of it, she said yes. And as I was just prayerfully asking the Lord, what would it be that we would talk about? Immediately the phrase breaking the mold came to me. And so I was like, okay, let me look into that. Let me see exactly what that meant. And so of course you Google it, Webster's Dictionary and whatnot. And so this is what I got. Breaking the mold means putting an end to a restrictive pattern of events or behavior by doing things in a significantly different way, to an extent which is clearly noticeable. So the thing that stood out to me the most was putting an end to restrictive patterns and behaviors, which we do know that sometimes can keep us from being able to walk fully in what God has called us to do. And so, like I said, that's what came to me when I was asking the Lord about, okay, what do we talk about? And she said that will be so perfect. And so definitely want to talk deep into that. But before we do, it's always cool to get a little background and a context so that way we can kind of walk into it real good. So Faith, I want you to share a little bit about the younger years of Faith. Like, what is it, your dreams and your ambitions and kind of where you thought your life was going to go and kind of how God shifted that to kind of lead you into the seasons of where you are now.
Oh, wow. I saw that question on the sheet and I was like, whoa, that's a big question.
I can go deep now. I can get deep on you.
Look, it's a big question because, dreams are cyclical. It has different cycles. It changes as it changes. When I was younger, I just wanted to survive. Like survival was my mindset. Let me just start by saying I was born in Jamaica. My mom was here in America and I was being raised by my godmother. Kingston, Jamaica is no place to play with, just say that. But I did have some good memories, but also as I got older and went through therapy, there were some repressed memories that were in the back that I didn't remember. And going through therapy brought those to the forefront. And I realized, oh my goodness, at that age, I was so young. I got here to America when I was 7. So it felt like I was like, oh my goodness, that young, and I was trying to survive. Wow, like how in the world are you that young and you're on survival mode? But long story short, then, my mom brought us here to America and, my mom had a rough life as well. I won't go too deep into it. I'm not really into sharing other people's stories too much, but I will say when it meshes into mine is that coming here, I found out more about her story and why mine and her relationship was so, I'd say horrible, but I was not born in the greatest situation. And my mom kind of broke things down to me, which kind of, when you find out how you came to this world in such a sad way, it kind of will put a weight on your shoulder.
For sure.
And for a long time, I felt like it was my fault because of that weight, knowing that I was born through rape. It left this burden on my shoulders, like, oh my goodness, I have to do everything right because I want to make sure she loves me. I want to make sure she cares for me because oh my gosh, when she looks at me, this is what she sees, and so forth. And it can weigh you down.
For sure.
My mom and I didn't have the best relationship. There's some cruel things and some other things we went through. And this is not to knock her as a mother, because her life was not that great. Her upbringing was not that great. And I'm a true believer in how can you love when you don't even know what it feels like to receive it,
Yeah.
So, and that took growth for me to understand that. But, as I got older and living with her, we just butted heads all the time. I was very outspoken, more than you should be as a child, and whenever you ask me a question, if you didn't want the truth, don't ask it. Okay. And that didn't always mesh well, because, a child should be in a child's place. And sometimes I lost my place because I felt like honesty was more important. Mm-hmm. But over the years, after I learned the truth about my upbringing, some of the details of what I've been through, I myself had been gone through child molestation and rape and abuse and things like that. And people often ask me, you went through all that and then you went through this with your mom. How could you be so close to her? And I said, because I forgive her.
So good.
And I forgive myself.
So good.
I said, it's still my mother at the end of the day. She's still my mother. And I know she loves me, because she didn't love me, she wouldn't have gone out of her way to bring me to America so that I could have a better life. If she didn't love me, she wouldn't have brought me to her house and tried to raise me the best she could. So I knew that she loved me. I just had to understand the love may not look the way I think it should look. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah. And so over the years, I just kept sticking by her and trying to figure it out. Okay, she's not doing great by me, but it's got to be a reason why. I'm going to stick by her. And I will honestly say, over the years through therapy and understanding and growth and God, first and foremost, God. Yeah. I don't believe that if I didn't have God in my life, I'd probably still be a bitter person. Yeah. I would still be holding on to that anger and that pain and that resentment against her and all those who hurt me. Mm-hmm. I would have still been holding on to that, and I wouldn't be the person you see today. For sure. I'd probably be some mean person sitting somewhere, just probably taking out the same anger and pain on my children that was taken out on me. And I didn't, and that's why the breaking the mold, literally you said that, and I started to tear up, because I was like, how did she know? Oh God, girl. To be who I am today, I had to break that mold. So good. So many times in our lives, we hear of our family members, our mothers, father, whoever, going through pain, and then they inflict that same pain on us, and then we inflict it on our children, and my sisters and I said, no, it stops here. So good. We're going to break that mold. We're not going to continue on with that. I am the mom I am today because all I do is think, okay, this happened to me. So how did it make me feel? I don't want to do that to my children. So I always ask myself, how did younger me feel when I deal with my children? So now my mom and I are fantastic. We're great. Perfect, no, but we are great. I've learned her enough to know when to say, Mom, I'll call you later. Right, good. And when to stay on the phone and have a conversation. But, my mom is a giving and loving person. She really is, but again, that took time and growth. For sure. And now when the first person she wants to call when something's going on or she wants to talk about something is me. So cool. I'm her best friend now, she's my best friend now, but it took breaking that mold, breaking that cycle of resentment and anger and vengeance that kept going in my family for so many years, just as she went through with her mother. Yeah. And even on my grandmother's deathbed, she never truly apologized to my mom for what she put her through. But some years ago, my mom apologized to me. Wow. And I, in return, apologized to her for me taking my resentment and pain out on her in certain ways that I did. So good. Because sometimes when we're hurt, we feel like I'm hurt. I don't have anything to apologize for. Right. But in your hurt, you can create hurt as well. And just because that person's hurting you doesn't mean that it's okay for you to go back and hurt them. Yeah. That's not God's way. That's not forgiveness. Yeah. So, but I give a lot of props to my husband, Charles. I'm not gonna cry today, but my husband, it's like God, when God brought him into my life, it was like God said, you've been through enough.
Wow.
I'm going to give you something light. I'm going to give you the love you've been giving. I'm going to give it to you in return. You know, he's not perfect. There are times I'm going to pull out that frying pan and bop. But, you know, he stuck by me at my worst.
Yeah.
He pushed me through my best. He's an amazing father, amazing husband, my best friend in the whole wide world. I mean, I know people say you shouldn't say it, but I can't imagine my life without him. Like, Lord forbid, if this marriage didn't work out in the future, he'd still be my best friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I give him props because he told me a long time ago, he said, and okay goes a long way. I'm very stubborn. I will argue my point to the end. And my mom and I, that's where our conflict was, because she has something to say and I'm strong on my opinion. She's strong. Right. And nobody's willing to just fall back and say, you know, is it really worth it? And he said, you know, and okay goes a long way. And so I started saying and okay a lot.
Gotcha.
And so the and okay cut a lot of arguments, because I just say, do I need to win, or I just need peace?
So cool.
You know, and he is my light. He's such a godly man, you know, an imperfect godly man. I say imperfect because no one's perfect. He's imperfect, but he's such a godly man, because every day he keeps trying to remind me. I'll have a bad day, he'll send me a scripture, you know, and he'll end it with, I love you. I'm always here for you. You know, every morning we wake up, he says, good morning, I love you. Yeah. You know, and that's what pushes me and makes me want to be my best. I wouldn't even do sewing right now if it wasn't for him.
I love it.
So, you know, and my children, they keep me going. So, you know, I have this thing where I sew a lot, and people often think that push you to want to make money out of, you know, the thing you do the most or thing you love. And I always remind myself that I'm not reaching for millions. I'm reaching for peace.
So good. So,
you know, that's a bit of my upbringing, but, you know, again, and my dad, I can't take my dad out of it. You know, my dad,
yes,
he's
sir. Yes.
So funny.
Yes. Amazing guy, y'all. Amazing guy.
And sharp. Mr. Willie Anderson, that right there, that man showed me what the love of a husband looks like. So like, cool. Even still now, him and my mom been divorced for a while, but they're the best of friends.
So cool.
Like, there's nothing he wouldn't do for her.
Yeah. And
he could have been like, you know, he's not my biological dad, he's my stepdad, but you wouldn't know we look alike, y'all, promise. If you saw a picture. And
she's been so for real.
If you saw a picture, you'd be like, you sure this? Are you sure? Oh, man. But that man right there is the full write-up characteristic of what I looked for when I said I want to get married one day.
Love it.
You know, and he is just a great supporter. He could have been like, oh, I'm not married to him anymore, forget about y'all. But he still maintained a relationship with all of us. And he's never uttered, these are my stepkids. Like, these are my children. How many kids do you have? Oh, I have 5 kids. Yeah. You know, he's never made us feel like we were step or half or part. Yeah. He made us feel like we're full. And, you know, those are people in my life that has really surrounded me. And I cannot go without saying Sergeant Threat's name. You know Sergeant Threat.
Yep.
Still to this day, me and Sergeant Threat.
Yeah.
We still get to talking, and she still keeps me in place.
Love it.
You know, so, you know, I really feel that it's not me why I am the way I am, it's God and the surroundings that he's placed around me. So good. Everyone that I've met, good or bad, put something in me to make me better.
I love it. So good. Oh man, you dropped so many nuggets that I'm telling you.
And I'm sorry, I forgot the dreams part. Dreams. My dream growing up was to first, when we're in the military, I was going to be an officer. Then got out the military. Iraq was like, forget about that. And I was like, got my degree, and I was like, I'm going to move up in the university. I was working at FAU, and I wanted to move up and work with more veterans. Then this lady put her hands on my daughter at daycare, and I was like, oh no, I'm going home. And next thing I knew, my dream shifted from myself to my family.
Wow.
I no longer had a dream of self-fulfilling things. It was more of wanting to fulfill something in others.
Yeah.
Like, so my dream has just been to be an amazing mother, and that to impact people, no matter who's in my life, who got placed on my path for whatever reason. My dream is to be a positive impact on them, so that one day they can say, I remember this girl named Faith.
Yeah.
The same way I'm listing the people that made an impact on me, I would love people to list the impact I made from them and how I made them realize that we can overcome the pain of our past.
So cool. So cool. So that's actually a great segue into now what you're doing. Just a few things. As you mentioned, you're a seamstress, you're into sewing, and that is something that you've done so well, just seeing things that you've created. I love that. I'll make sure we run out of time here. Okay, boom. Okay. Because we may have to, it'll end it and probably have to start it over again, but it's all good. But it is just cool just to see what God has just given you, and just the giftings that he's given you in your sewing. And I'm definitely going to share some content so that way you can check out her stuff. But however, the segue into the giftings that the Lord has given you and how you've used them. And so we have faith souls in styles, faithful purpose, and learn today live with faith, where you're doing
Faith St. Jules is my Instagram. Faith Sewing Style is my Facebook. Yes.
Boom. And I'm gonna make sure I put all of that in there so that way y'all can have it, y'all can check her out. And so let's talk a little bit about that. So you moved into sewing. So has sewing been always something that you've known how to do, or like this is like, where did that come from?
Well, when I was little, when we lived in Florida, there's this lady that used to watch us after school. My mom had to work late. There's always that one lady neighborhood.
Right.
She would teach us all these crafts. She taught us how to do clay work, like make cups and things like that. She taught us how to knit, how to sew with our hands and things like that. So I learned how to sew my hands first when I was little, and how to knit. And then, of course, it kind of passed over time.
Mm-hmm.
But what brought it back was when I got back from Iraq. I thought when we got back, I was fine. Didn't think anything was wrong with me. But I went through a lot of trauma. Mm-hmm. Like, I had horrible dreams. I had, and Cecilia, we lost some friends while we were there.
For sure.
But I wasn't the same person. Yeah. I was not in a good place. I was in a very, very dark place. And, I kind of blamed God a little bit. I was like, I went through this as a child, and I went through this as a teenager. Now I'm going through this. Like, why you keep putting me through this?
Real question.
Exactly. And I was like, I need you to tell me, because this has to be for a purpose, has to be for a reason, which is where faithful purpose comes from. But after, I got married to my husband, I was like, okay, I need to go into therapy, because this is not the way to be. I can't do this on my own, and I'm a little upset with God right now. So obviously I'm not where I need to be and centered in him in order to receive the help from him he can give me.
For sure.
So I went to therapy at the VA in Florida, and my therapist said, do you have a hobby? And I said, not really. I was like, I nibble and dabble in everything. She said, well, I want you to figure something out that makes you smile. Do something to help you cope, something that takes your mind from thinking so much, because you're an overthinker. Mm-hmm. Guilty. And, my husband was like, didn't you say you used to sew? I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you get back into that? And he bought me my first sewing machine. And I started watching YouTube University.
Yeah.
And then I started sewing, and it just took a life of its own. We were struggling really badly when the kids were little. So I would take his old shirts and make clothes for the kids.
Wow.
I'll take his old shirts, make a shirt for Victor, make a dress out of my old shirts and t-shirts and for the kids. And they'd always look like they were something brand new, but I was making it.
I love it.
And so it kind of took a life of its own. Then someone at my church said, oh, you should have an Instagram page. I said, Insta who? Because I really didn't do social media. I just knew Facebook. And so I got on Instagram, and oh my gosh, it opened up this whole world I didn't know existed.
Wow.
There's so many people who sew. And it was like, I found my tribe. I found my people. And so I got into sewing. And I honestly haven't looked back since. It started out just something fun to do. And, when you share it, it inspires other people to sew. And it feels good hearing someone say you're doing a good job. So it motivates you. And then, I started kind of like, I want to do more. There's something more I want to do with it. So I started speaking encouraging messages on my Instagram with my sewing. I'd say today it was a bad day. But blah blah. Every bad day can become a good one, depends on how your perspective is. And it started motivational sewing. And then it just, people started saying, thank you so much. I was getting emails. I need that message today. Thank you so much. And then I started Live with Faith, where I started interviewing people in the community. And that started to get pretty big. And I got noticed through other people, through pattern companies and so forth, who would pay or give free fabric for me to create stuff with their fabric or their patterns. And other companies started paying me to do ads for them through Instagram. And I really wasn't going to just make money, honestly, but they say when you do something you love and don't worry about the money will come.
I love it.
So then it turned into something I can do and make some extra money on my own. But before I did that, I was doing custom clothing for people. I was making prom dresses and formal wear, but
it got a little stressful.
It got a little stressful, girl. The momzillas. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh my word.
But and so I just started sewing selfishly. We call it in the sewing community selfish sewing. Those are people who don't sew for other people. We do it for our own therapy, for our own mindset, just something we do for fun. And then I started sharing how to do certain things on my YouTube channel, how, sewing tips and things like that. And it started to spread. And I was like, okay, well, then I shared I think it spread even bigger once about in 2018, I shared my story of my life and what had happened to me. And I shared how sewing helped me with it. It helped me cope. It gave me a place to go emotionally, mentally, and it blew up. And next thing I know, I started speaking, doing messages on my Instagram and on my YouTube. And Faithful Purpose was born from that.
I love it.
I said, God, you gave me sewing. I thought it was for me, but you were just using this as a doorway to help me be of service to other people, and using you and to speak life into them, and then bringing them to you.
Yeah.
Because whenever I speak, I'm going to say your name. If they don't want to hear it, I don't know, tell them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say your name. And I'm going to tell them, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be where I am today. And maybe that'll bring some people close to him in some way, shape, or form. So
yeah, so cool. God is so strategic, man. And when we surrender to what he's doing, and we surrender to his plan and his leading and his guiding, it takes us to literally places that we wouldn't even have imagined. Right. I can't remember the scripture specifically by the verse, but basically where it says God would do exceedingly and abundantly above all these things, right? That we can act, think, or imagine. And God does that when we surrender ourselves and our plans and everything to him. And so that's one thing that I love about your story. And now that I'm learning so much more, because I've learned a lot and it all makes sense, and it's exciting because there's so many women who are, they have stories such as this, right? And there are some women who have not yet learned or found the courage to break that restrictive or that toxic mold that they've been living in for so long. And so I love this. God is always so good. He just, like I said, that's why I love just letting him have the conversation, and he will flow. And so, yeah, it is real good. Hey everyone, I hope that you are enjoying this wonderful conversation that I had with my dear friend Faith. I pray that it is blessing you just as much as it blessed me when we were actually talking and in the moment of the conversation. But before we dive back into the second part, I wanted to make sure that I jumped in and reminded you, if you have not already, go over to the Flourish in Grace website and join the emailing list. So that way you can stay up to date regarding all things Flourish in Grace. Listen, I want to stay connected it to you as God has given me some amazing content, and as I'm sitting down with some amazing women in conversation, I want to make sure that you are getting it and that it is reaching everyone. So again, go over to the Flourish in Grace website. That is Flourish in Grace, and go ahead and sign up for the emailing list, and we'll be talking with you soon. All right, y'all, be blessed. All right, so y'all, we had to take a quick break real quickly to get back in into the thing. We just left off with Faith just telling us about just how she got into sewing. And like I said, it just all makes sense of how everything just comes together, and how God just uses such strategic methods of leading us into the purpose that he has called us to. And now it has caused her to be in a position where she's just flourishing in a way that is being fruitful and just being an overflow into other people's lives. And I'm just loving it. So I do want to kind of take a step back, not going back in the conversation, but just really want to touch on two things because I love the story of just how impactful and how encouraging your husband is for you, right? But I also know that you have two beautiful children. You have a son and you have a daughter. And so I want to hear a little bit about them and just kind of like, how God is just using those two, I know, just wonderful gifts to just bless your life. And just what that looks like.
Let me see. Let me tuck in the gray hair that they're giving me first. Oh man, golly, that's why I said, my husband, my kids earlier are my greatest gifts, because Jamie she is my firstborn, and I call her my lifesaver. When she was little, she never knew. She thought I was calling her lifesaver because of the candy.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was being literal. So she's 14 now, giving us a run for our money. She is smart and just so kind and sweet. She's a people person, similar to how I used to be, though we're trying to get her understanding of life, because, she's the type of person where if she's having a good day and one of her friends are upset with her, it affects her day. And we're trying to get her to understand, you can't let other people have an effect on how you feel about yourself. Sure. But she's growing, and you're a teenager, you go through that. Yeah. But I call her my lifesaver because I was in a really dark place when I found out I had her. I was going through suicidal thoughts. Wow. And really mentally planning out how I wanted to leave the world. Wow. Long story short, in the midst of getting ready to want to take that plan to action, I was feeling really sick, and my sister was like, I need to take pregnancy tests. I was like, me? I told you I didn't want any kids. And he will tell you I didn't want any kids because I was afraid of continuing the cycle. I was afraid of the type of mother I was going to be. I was like, oh my goodness, what if I can't control it? What if I end up being a horrible mother, or I don't treat them well, or whatnot? So I was like, it's just safer not to have kids. But at that time, I was going through some suicidal thoughts, and my sister was like, you need to take pregnancy tests. So I took one and found out I was pregnant. And I was like, what? And it's like, did you not know my plan? What are you doing? This was not part of the plan. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm laughing now because, to me, it's funny of how far I've come. Yeah. So now I'm able to laugh at those thought processes, like, girl, what was wrong with you? Yeah. But, I was looking like, I had plans. What are you trying to do? I don't want to be here no more. This world crazy. Yeah. And the thing that really shook me was when I think I must have been 5 months pregnant, 5 or 6 months pregnant. And I woke up, blood everywhere. And that was the moment I realized how bad I wanted to be a mother, because I thought I lost her. Wow. Went to the hospital. The doctor said, your tube detachment uterus. I forgot what it's called. But he said, but somehow it reattached itself. So usually in situations like this, there's a miscarriage. Wow. Or they have to C-section to remove the baby because it's stillborn or whatever. Well, not stillborn, but they have to remove the baby because the baby's dead.
Mhm.
So, but somehow it detached itself. And Jamie was so stubborn, I'm gonna tell you, not only did it reattach itself, but she didn't want to come out at all. I was way past my time. I was almost 10 months pregnant. They're like, okay, we just gonna have to induce you because she don't want to come out.
No, I'm
Right
good.
then,
I'm good.
right? I was like, right then should have been a sign of how stubborn she was gonna be growing up.
Wow.
So strong-willed, right? But they induced me, and but I will go back to the point of being in the hospital. That was the moment where it hit me. I heard a voice in my head, and I promise you, the voice is so clear. It felt like that person was standing right next to me with their head over me.
Wow.
And the voice said, I gave you life to save your own. I was like,
Okay. That just gave me chills. Wow.
like, what? And I'm looking around, you hear something so sharp and clear. You're like, somebody here with me.
Wow.
And it took me some time. I know some people, oh, that was God. It's not always that easy for people initially to understand that was God.
Yeah.
Especially depending on the place that you're in your life at the time.
For sure.
But, I came to realize that was God. Wow. And so I started calling her my little lifesaver.
Wow.
So I always tell her, I said, I need you to always want to live. I need you to always want to live the best life you can because you were here to save my life. And when I told her, I didn't go into deep details, but I told her parts of the story, I wouldn't want to share all of that. I told her about how I almost lost her. And I told her how she was born to save my life. And I always told her, I said, I want that to be your fighting story. Wow. No matter what goes on in this life, no matter what you go through, that is your story, that you remember that you were here to save life. And that could be through your message, through your friendships, through relationships. You are here to save lives. So good. So good. So like that was her. And Victor, child, he was ready to come out in this world, honey.
Is he outgoing?
You know what? He is in certain areas. If it's not something he's interested in,
I got you.
Not really. But see, Victor is my voice of reason. I call him. Like he doesn't say much, and he reminds me of Charles so much because he doesn't say much, but he would just out of nowhere just say something. You're like, where'd that come from? That was really profound. He must have been 8 years old. No, he was 9 years old, 9 or 10. We're driving somewhere in the car. He says, Mommy, do you realize that we have a lot of godly people around us? He started listening to our friends and stuff. If you're our friends, he goes, they're all godly people. It's like God is surrounding us through the people. Wow. Wow. And I was like, come on, wisdom. Where did that come from? Discernment. Like the kid who rarely says anything. He just comes out, it's like at moments, and he just, so he's my voice of reason. He's my common sense kid. I love it. You no matter when you have kids, you always say, I wish this part of you would rub off on your sister or brother, and I wish this part of them would rub off on you. Like Jamie is just instinctively smart and intelligent. She doesn't have to study. It's, Victor is common sense, smart. This kid can find his way in life, Yeah. So I'm like, I wish some of your common sense would rub off on each other. Her book sense to rub off on you, like just mold each other. But, I will say that they finish me. Yeah. Like the parts of me that I'm finding in them. And, I don't believe that fully that my children are born for me to give them lessons in life. I feel like they were born for us to give each other lessons. Wow. Like they've taught me, they're the reason why I understand God's love. Wow. Wow. They are the reason I understand God's love, because when they were little, we would spank them, something wrong. And then later, right then they come and give us a hug, ladies, say, I love you. But I just spanked you. Aren't you fucking mad at me? They getting into trouble. We take away their things and put them on punishment. They might be mad right then, but later on they come cuddling up nuts. I'm like, If that's not God's love, no matter how much we disappoint him,
Yeah.
he always comes and embraces us in the
So
midst of
good.
it.
So
And
good. Such a,
that is like, and it doesn't have to necessarily be your own children.
yeah.
You know, it could be a love of someone's child, care of someone else's child, showing you kindness in the midst
Yeah.
of a moment they don't realize you're going through.
Yeah.
I feel like children are here to teach us
So
God's love.
good. So good.
And we just think I'm an adult and I'm here to teach you and teach you about life. And they looking at you like, you just don't know why God brought me here. Do you? You know,
I love it.
so, you know, my children, they're my life lessons, you know, like they're my arrow, but my life lessons. And one of them is calling right now. But I will text her and tell her. But yeah, but my children, I don't know, I don't chase things simply because I feel so content
So
in
good.
the
So good.
emotional, you know what I mean?
So
I'm an
good.
emotional person. Anybody know me knows, you know me, Cecilia. I'm emotional.
Yeah.
I always have been. I'm the emotional person. So for me, I don't see and go, thank you, God, for the chair. I'm like, thank you, God, for the moments.
Yeah. So good. That's good.
Moments where I learn things.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm grateful for the blessing to have a home and things like that and not have to worry financially to a certain extent. But I'm more so happy because of the love.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I've grown up around rich people. I've seen people with money be miserable, very, very miserable. And so I've come to find that my joy comes from people.
I love it.
You know, so that's what my children teaching me. I saw that thing, I say, kind people are my kind of people. And I had a t-shirt long ago that said that because my daughter, it's a funny story before we go on, my daughter showed me how to compliment people in the way, like I'm really shy about approaching strangers. She see a lady, I like your scrunchie.
Yeah.
You compliment a scrunchie? Like, oh, I love the way your hair curls in the front. And
So
she taught me the smallest kindness you can find and say to somebody.
Yes.
You know, can really make a difference. And it's like, oh my goodness, really? Thank you. I love scrunchies. I have like 5 of them. The whole conversation started about scrunchies.
From there. That's so good.
That's so good. So yeah, every day I'm learning lessons from my children.
I love it. I love it. That's such a beautiful thing, man. And I watch because I have a lot of friends who have kids, and just to hear the stories of the kids and the life lessons that they are learning from them, even at a young age. Because like you said, we can get to the point to, as adults, we feel like we have so much to give them and to share with them. Because, you know, as we grew up, right, you know, when you're in a room with adults, right, and I still believe this. I am not going to veer away from it. You know, when you're in a room with adults, you don't get an adult conversation, right? But one thing that I've learned just from different friends of how they do interact with their children and how they validate their children in the giftings that God has placed in them. But at the same time, they're learning beautiful lessons from them. So I love that. And that even goes back to you, like you said, breaking that mold from your childhood and just wanting better for them, but then also seeing how God is working in that and how it's being a beautiful gift to you as well. So that is such a wonderful thing. So listen, I think that we have definitely touched on some deep things that has just given a great picture of how God has just worked through your life and how he's using your brokenness, the years of your brokenness, and how he's taking that and he's using that as a gifting to help other broken people, right? And I think that one thing that I always want to highlight is how God can do that, right? And allow people to really see that what you're going through, when you surrender it to God, God can actually use that for your betterment and for other people. So that is real cool. So with all of that being said, now just to kind of what the conversation hasn't been like sad, but just to kind of bring some light as we're coming to the end of our convo. So I just want to jump in to have some fun questions. I didn't give you these questions, so this is kind of off the cuff. And I just want to just some fun facts about you. So the first question that I have, when you first met your husband, What was the one thing that you said, you know what? Yes, you can definitely be my husband. What was that thing that caught your eye?
It wasn't really eye in my ears. He made me laugh.
So good.
I love comedy. I love anybody can make me laugh. He made me laugh. And he made me think outside myself. He made me want to be better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you find someone you date for a little while, I've been in a relationship where I've kind of been the one to feel like I'm trying to improve someone else, which is not my job, honestly.
For sure.
But the first time I felt like we were improving each other.
Yeah.
So it was that. And then when I met him, he had on this outfit that made me think of my dad. He had a whole linen outfit on with some.
Oh, not a linen outfit. Oh my God. Okay.
I said, are you kidding me? I said, when I said I wanted somebody similar to my dad, I didn't mean in look.
In the literal aspect of it.
Exactly. I'm like, we should show up to go on a date, and he took me to a gospel concert for our first date, our first real date. Because we met online. Like they're like, what? So Charles and I was trying to debunk eHarmony because I worked at a bank, and some of the ladies there, one of the ladies that she'd been married for a while, she's like, yeah, I met my husband on eHarmony. I'm like, oh Lord, who in the world going on some website to meet people? You don't watch ID channel, these stalkers and all that stuff out there. You better be careful. So I saw a commercial having a free weekend, and I was like, let me try this thing out, see how crazy it is. I'm sure it's fake or whatever. So I tried it out, and it's called Ping or whatever. So he pinged me or whatever, clicked me, whatever it was called back then. It's been like 15 years now. And he was sitting in front of his car, and I was like, okay, he handsome, I like him thick, And you have to go through steps. That's what I did like about eHarmony.
For sure.
You have to communicate through their sources first.
Yeah.
You got your phone number, all that stuff.
For sure.
Man, after the first day, we were emailing, then we switched to text. We just dropped all that, started talking on the phone.
Wow.
And he became my best friend in one night.
Wow.
And got married 4 months later.
Wow. Wow.
And I love, there are people like, that's not going to work. Because people feel like there's a timeline.
Yeah.
And I have to remind people, there's no timeline. When you are going to this and you're asking God to bless this thing and give you signs and for God to give you a mindset to read and see. I'm trying to find the word now, or I'm forgetting the word I'm trying to use.
Discernment.
Discernment, yes.
Yeah.
When you're like, Lord, give me discernment. So I know I'm not going to a crazy situation.
For sure.
And 15 years later, here we are.
Come on. When God is in it, man, listen, you can trust him. And that is such a cool story. That is such a cool story. I just keep getting these random phone calls.
Only when you're busy.
Listen,
nobody will call and text you until you're busy doing something.
It's probably the warranty people, like your warranties. Okay, so next fun question. So random, waffle or pancakes?
Pancakes. I only like waffle one way, and that's because this place called Brunch Apothecary by me. They got this chicken waffle with this a churro waffle with a guava butter.
That sounds good.
When I tell you, and this place called the food truck place, and they have these waffles. It literally tastes like the Lord done blessed it.
Come now.
Ooh, child. I ain't with the bread this week. It's making it hard. Now asking that question, making it hard on me.
I love it. I'm definitely a waffle girl. To be honest with you, pancakes. When I was growing up, my grandma used to cook these humongous pancakes in her cast iron skillet, and waffles about this. I'm not waffles or pancakes this big. And I haven't had a pancake like that ever in my life since my grandmother has left the world. So last question. So if there was any other thing in the world other than sewing, definitely not like the ministry aspect of it, but just sewing. But if there was anything else that you could do, that you don't know how to do and that you can learn how to do, what would be that thing you would love to learn how to do?
Public speaking.
Mm.
Because I took class in college, but I'm not great around crowds. A lot of people don't realize if people see me on social media and they think I'm an extrovert, but I'm a severe introvert.
Gotcha.
And so my dream is to speak to people on a stage, like share my story and uplift and encourage people on the stage. But I got to get over this fright, the shakes. So what I would love to do, and you talked about dreams early, so I guess it goes into that. I would love to do public speaking.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, we're going to be praying about that. Because of course, in giftings like this, it does open up into, to arenas such as that. So, and one thing that I've learned is just your willingness, and God will step in, because people may think not know differently, but I have a fear of public speaking as well. And I've done public speaking.
Yeah.
And every single time I stand before a group of people or a crowd of people, I always definitely have to pray for the Lord to kind of give me that strength to do it. And he never fails me. He never fails me. Sometimes I've been put on the spot. I'm like, hey, our speaker didn't show up, so we need someone to kind of step in. And it's like, okay, but God, have your way. But even in that, what I've learned, just the same way that you have just surrendered your giftings to the Lord, he will definitely make way for that and give you exactly what you need. And I think, honestly, when you get to the point to where there is not a fear there, a healthy fear, we might need to be concerned, right? But I feel like whenever we do have that healthy fear, it causes us to lean on the Lord to do what he needs to do. So of course, like I said, what you're doing is going to open a door to public speaking. And so we're going to pray that the Lord gives you what you need, which I know that he will. But however, this has been a joy. It has been such a beautiful time. One, just getting to talk with my friend again, man. Like I said, this is a gift to me. And this is my first conversation back with Flourish in Grace. Flourish in Grace has been something that it was something that the Lord gave me back in 2017. Started it, was being consistent. Of course, life happens, fell off a little bit, got back on, and then the same thing again. So since I've been back in Georgia, I've really been going through a hard time and was struggling with getting back into it. And fear came in, and just, all of the above that keeps you from moving forward in what God has called you to do. And so I really wanted to just dive back in. And so when I was preparing to do the podcast again, definitely wanted to do some video content and whatnot. And Faith was one of the first ones that came to my mind. So I reached out, and she responded back and was like, yes. And I was like, yes. So this has been a blessing. The doggy came in.
FedEx guy came to the door. You only know I have a dog when the FedEx guy comes, or UPS.
Oh man, so cool. But yes, so Faith, thank you so much for joining in with us. And I'm just excited to share this with everybody because I know it's going to be a blessing. And I know that this is not going to be our last time interacting with each other on this platform or in this arena. And so I'm just excited about it. And I just want to say I love you, man. And it's just so cool to see you and just spend this time with you.
Love you too. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and share my story. That means a lot. Any opportunity someone says, hey, can we talk, share your story? I feel like that's God. Love it. Because you didn't have to. It just came out of nowhere. I didn't expect this at all. So I appreciate that very much. And I hope that all the things that I say, whoever's listening, that it impacts someone in a positive way. It reminds them that, everything they're going through is not in vain. Yeah. And there's an overcoming, and then there's a blessing and a lesson. So good. So good. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining in with us. And I do hope this has been a blessing to you. But for more content and more details in regards to Flourish in Grace, be sure to connect with me via the website, of course, at flourishingrace.com. You can also stay connected on social media platforms of Instagram and Facebook. And our tag is Flourish in Grace. And so if you want to connect with us there, that'd be so awesome. It's going to be
exciting season, again, because the Lord has given me some amazing women to reach out to sit down and have conversations with. And I know that they're going to be impactful. They're going to be blessings and just some seeds that he's going to use to bring forth great fruit. And I am excited about it because I know that when we open ourselves to God and we surrender our gifts and our wills to him, man, he's going to do some amazing things with that. So as I always say, Jesus is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. And there is no other way to him, to the Father, except through him. And hey, listen, if I have anything to give you, that is what I want to give you. I just want to point you to Jesus. And so just know that he loves you. And I love you too. So y'all be blessed.